There's a new program I guess Facebook is using to create these live streams on my laptop. So this is kind of a new format that I'm using, and it looks different. And hey, Lori, good morning. So I wasn't really sure how it was going to display and how the names were going to come up. So I'm seeing everybody coming in now. It's just displaying differently on my computer. Good morning, Mike and Kim and Claudia, Steve and Andrea. Good morning, Suzanne. Morning, Lisa. Welcome, everybody. We're filming indoors, and which isn't as nice as outdoors, but it's raining out there, so it's kind of hard to do it. Welcome, everybody. Monday morning. Anybody have the Monday mornings today? You know what I mean? It's Monday. The weekend is over. Though I guess right now, it's kind of, especially if you're sheltering in place, weekdays, weekends, all kinds of runs together, doesn't it? But for me, Mondays are Mondays. Right now, anyway, they're the beginning of a very full work week. Lots to do. I've enjoyed a day off and got good rest. But Monday, you hit the ground running. So I need every bit of encouragement each morning during the week to face the day. And not that the days are overly hard, but they just feel very full and can be overwhelming. So in that sense, anybody got a case of the Mondays today? And so this devotion will be for you. Not that the content is specifically for Mondays, but it's just the right way to start the day when you have a full one. And so I'm grateful. So we are in Psalm 78 this morning as a part of our reading plan. And I'm seeing several likes on that comment. So some of you are joining me for a sense of the Mondays. I get it. Psalm 78 it's a long psalm, so we're not going to read all through it. I'm just going to draw, I think, the sense of it and make an application. And this is a psalm. It's not written by David. It's written by Asaph. But it includes a reference to David by the end. So this is some generation after David, and who's including this psalm. So he begins by saying, "Give ear, O my people, to my teaching, incline your ears to the words of my mouth." So this psalm, remember, every psalm is a song that was sung by the congregation. It was sung by family, our households. These were psalms that reminded us of that are put in place to remind us of who God is, his steadfast love. They educate us about the history of Israel. It was Israel's way of even putting their history, reminding future generations of what God had done before. This is one of those psalms. It's a teaching psalm. And so he's saying, I will open my mouth in a parable. This is verse 2. I will utter dark sayings from of old, things that we have heard and known, that our fathers told us. So this psalm is reciting information that had been revealed to this generation from a previous generation, and they're trying to pass this information forward to the next generation. So Asaph is writing this psalm. And the initial theme is we're speaking of the wonders of God, the steadfast nature and love of God. He says, we will not hide them or these teachings from our children, but tell them to the coming generation the glorious deeds of the Lord and his might and the wonders that he has done. Now, you might think that for the rest of the psalm, is just going to recount all of God's wonders, which it does. But it does it in a way that kind of surprises you, because the psalmist recounts the wonders of God within the context of a generation that didn't appreciate it, that didn't really learn from seeing the wonders of God. So he uses the generation that was enslaved in Egypt, that God delivered from Egypt and marched them through the wilderness, through the Red Sea, and fed them manna, gave them water out of a rock, all these miraculous things. He was a pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day, led Israel in the wilderness, heading toward the promised land. So it's this amazing story, but the irony is that this generation is one that Israel talks commonly of as a teaching point of don't be like that generation. So the psalmist is using this same teaching style. I'm going to tell the wonders of the Lord. Remember what he did in Egypt and how he delivered God's people from the hand of the slave drivers, and he rescued them through the Red Sea, and he fed them in the wilderness. But don't be like that generation who saw all those wonders, and they continually tested God. They continued to reject God's leadership. They continued to ask, though God would deliver them time and time again, he would provide for them time and time again. They continually would complain and grumble and wonder, God, are you for us or not? Which, from our perspective, is such an irony. It's like, how can you say that? I mean, God is doing these amazing wonders in your midst that really no other generation has seen, not previous and not afterward. God did some amazing things throughout Israel or the history of mankind, but no single generation got to see what that generation that came out of Egypt saw. And they were fed in the desert or the wilderness every single day by the hand of God. God's presence was visibly manifest. They're the ones who received the law of Moses. They saw the cloud descend on the mountain, and God spoke and rumbled, and it terrified the people. And Moses went up there with Joshua, and they received the law. I mean, no other generation saw the wonders of God like this generation, and yet this is the generation that the Psalms continually point back to and say, here's an example of what not to do. So let me just draw a couple points from that. And you can read, the psalmist goes into great detail about all the wonders of God and how that generation continued to test God and grumble and act in unbelief, though they were God's people. And so let's just draw from that. The main point I think that the psalmist is making that meant the most to me this morning, there's so many things we can draw from this, but I'm just going to dwell on one for the sake of time. And that is the importance of testing. It is God's testing, or the testing of life being hard. We'll just say a general term like that. Life is hard. And it's important that life is hard, because if it weren't, we would be untested. We would be unproven. It would be very difficult for us to grow in maturity. We all see this in life, that a part of being mature, a part of being tested, is that we develop skills to grow in perseverance, maturity. We see God not just on the mountaintop, but in the valley. And he was with us every step of the way. And we can look back on those hard times and say, wow, God gave me strength. And his love was steadfast through that entire time. Even when I thought all hope was lost, God was still there, and he delivered me. We have these stories over and over of being tested, and our faith was pressed. Do you really believe in God or not? Okay, let's press into this difficult time. let's persevere, let's grow. And on the other side, you develop some experience and history that God is steadfast during this time. God does give strength. And we look back, and it's these kinds of stories that cause us to grow into the kinds of people that not just God approves of, but the kind of people that just make good people to be with, right? And you think about the people that you really respect in life. They're the ones who've lived life, and they've experienced their fair share of hard knocks, and they've just remained true. They've grown, and all of a sudden they say things that just seem wise, right? We know people that have walked this path ahead of us and a long time in the same direction, and we derive wisdom from them. We don't derive the same wisdom from an entitled, immature person who whines every time life just gets hard. We don't go to them and say, hey, can you just tell me some things that are really important that might help me in my life? We don't go to those people, right? We go to the people who've been tested and proven. So we see the benefit of it. And so the psalmist is really making a distinguishing characteristic between the acknowledgement is everybody faces hard times, hardship, disappointments, injustice, where our expectations don't get met, or a person disappoints us, or we fail in our own attempts at achieving a particular goal, or we experience a financial reversal, right? So hardship is universal. Every single person is going to face it. The psalmist is telling us the difference here is there are those who choose to press into that hard time and trust God, who will actually derive the benefit. And then there are those who reject or just try to escape from the hard time, or complain about the hard time, or just don't learn or derive the benefit from that hard time, because it doesn't sink in. They don't learn anything from it. They're just they maybe play the victim role. It's everybody else's fault. It's not my fault that I'm experiencing this hardship. It's unfair that I even have a hardship. We all understand this is an unrealistic attitude, but this is an immature attitude. So the psalmist is saying, don't be like those who saw the wonders of God, yet every time it got a little hard would complain and grumble and test God. It was that generation that God led out of Egypt and did all these things. He intended that generation to enter into the promised land, but because of their immaturity, their refusal to grow in their trust of God, continually tested God, continually displayed unbelief, characteristics of unbelief. God said, you're not the generation who is going to take the land. You are unequipped. I can't send you in with all these opposing forces. God knew exactly how big the forces would be that would oppose Israel. He needed a generation of faith. He needed a generation that would trust him, because they were always going to be outnumbered. The enemies were always going to be superior and battle hardened. And Israel wasn't going to have had faced any battles, really, or very few, when they entered the promised land. They needed God needed that generation to fully put their trust in him. And that's why God was sending them test after test after test and coming through for them over and over and over. He needed that generation to learn to trust him so that they could enter into the promised land. Well, they never got it. They never learned to trust God. And so God said, it's not going to be you. It's going to be the next generation, a generation that trusts me. If you hear that in the background, that's my dog. He's dreaming right now and barking in his sleep. I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know how he sleeps when I'm sitting here talking loud, but he is. He's deaf. He's 12 years old and deaf. So I guess that's how he's doing it. So rather, in this psalm, Psalm 78, we're supposed to tell the next generation about stories like this, and we ourselves are to be the kind of people who lean into those hard times and trust God in the midst of them. Because on the other side, we will persevere, we will grow, we will learn endurance, we will learn about the steadfast love of God, and we will be that generation that God uses in a greater way. We'll be that person who God gives opportunities to, because he's looking. The other, I can't remember what Old Testament book it says, that the eyes of the Lord look to and fro, looking for those whose hearts are fully his, so that he can use them. He can display his wonder through them. And so I think the same is true today, that God is looking for those individuals who, over the course of time, are leaning into the test, leaning into the hard time, feeling the hardship. We're not denying the hardship. It's hard, it's painful, saying, yeah, this hurts. I don't like it, but I'm going to trust God, and I'm going to allow him to develop the kind of faith and trust in me that he really needs to see in order for me to be used as a mouthpiece for him, as an example to him to pass on to the next generation. And I pray that that is true of my life, that I'm not going to be someone that a future generation looks back and says, oh, don't be like Pastor Mark, because when things got tough, he just ran and hid, or he complained, right? Nobody wants that kind of stuff to be said about them. So how are we doing today? I would just encourage us to, everybody faces hardship. There's no getting around it. And right now, obviously, it's an easy example to draw from our current life situation and how difficult and painful and disappointing this is. God is using this as an opportunity for us, our faith, our character, our trust to be tested, to continue to draw into it and feel the pain, but grow in our trust, our ability to trust in God today. God is sovereign. This kind of stuff that happens is, if you think about the span of time of all of human history, this is just a little blip on the radar, right? In God's plan that cannot be thwarted. It is moving forward. God is on the throne. He will bring about redemption for all of humanity who have placed their faith in him, and really all of creation. One day God will redeem. And this is just the reality of it, the truth of it. And let us lean in today in a deeper way to whatever it is that's really challenging us today, specifically. Lean into it. Trust God. I'd like to say that by trusting God, it just gets easier. It's still hard. But on the other end of it, we grow to the point where God now can use us in a new way that perhaps he couldn't before. And to look at this as God's mercy on us, and to grow us into the kind of people that future generations will look back on and say, wow, that's how to do it. So let us be faithful people today. Be encouraged, and I'm praying for you as we keep moving forward to be the kind of people that God says, well done, good and faithful servant. Be blessed today.